My name is Charles Harrell, and I'm here with Glenn Ferguson, interviewing him on his World War II service. Mr. Ferguson, can you state your full name, please?
Glenn Melvin Ferguson.
And your current address?
12209 Bent Hill Road, Nokesville, Virginia.
What branch of service were you in?
I was in the Army, infantry,
And can you tell me your rank?
PFC,
And where did you serve?
Europe.
When did you enlist?
March 14th, 43.
And when did you get discharged?
July the 9th, 1946.
I met Mr. Ferguson at a air show, and he gladly said he would do our interview today. Mr. Ferguson, where were you born,
Roanoke, Virginia.
and when were you born?
June the 24th, 1922.
Growing up during the Great Depression, did you find your life very difficult?
Well, I couldn't remember that much about it, but I remember my parents talking about it when we was living in Roanoke. I left there in 1932 and came to Fairfax, Virginia.
With your family?
With my family.
Why did they move?
I guess it counted the Depression. They came up here, and my grandfather, or mother's father, had a farm. So I guess they figured they'd come up and do better on the farm.
Were your family farmers?
All my grandparents were, not my father and mother. But my father was a painter, house painter. And my mother was, she worked for a printer in D.C. one time, printing people.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I got, I had two brothers and two sisters, but I got one brother living.
Well, how did your other brother die?
He died, was a younger brother.
How old were you when you got drafted?
20.
And why did you choose to go into the Army?
All my friends was gone around here, so I figured the best thing to do.
Did you know where your friends went when they went into the Army?
No, I didn't. I never really kept up with them to see where they did go.
Did you graduate high school?
No, I finished 1 year of high school.
Did you work any before you
Yes,
went
I
into
went to work when I was 16.
Can you tell me what you did?
Well, I started off in a gas station. Then I went over to Howard Johnson's restaurant and worked with them. And then when I went to service, I was working for National Airport, Washington, D.C., TWA.
And what was your job with them?
I was stock clerk.
Where were you living at the time you were drafted?
I was living in Fairfax County.
Did you have any choice of what branch of service you could join?
Yes, they asked me which one I want, and I said the Air Force, but they gave me the infantry.
How did that make you feel?
Well, I didn't really think of much of it because I didn't know what infantry was like or any other branch of service.
Had you wanted to become a flyer?
No, I just wanted to be maybe. I always loved mechanical work, maybe work on an airplane or flying one or something like that.
Do you recall when you went down to get on the bus to go to the service?
Yes, I went to Fairfax, which is called the Jesse Building. They put us on the trailway and took us to Richmond, to the induction center.
And you were about 19 when this happened?
I was 20.
You were 20 years old. Is this the first time you really had traveled anywhere?
No. When I was younger, me and my cousin, we hitchhiked to New York and back and, things like that.
When you got to Richmond, where did you go?
From Richmond, they sent us to Camp Lee, Virginia. That's where we got shots and uniforms and all the stuff.
You remember the day you got off the bus at Camp Lee?
No, I don't.
Do you recall, what's your first memory of boot camp?
That was in Camp Wheeler, Georgia.
So you went from Camp Lee
to Camp Wheeler, Georgia.
Was that really quick, like within a week, or was it?
It was
long?
about a week. Took about a week to get our clothes and the shots and all the process and everything. And joined up with what's called the 17th Battalion down there, and as a infantry training. 13 weeks.
Can you recall that your first memory when you were at Camp Wheeler and how you felt?
Well, not really, but I remember it well. You know, there, and they give us maybe a pass sometime on a weekend. I think a couple of passes going to Macon, Georgia, and things like that. I know it was a lot of sand to walk in, and all that sand get down your shoes. Get blisters. A lot of guys, 25-mile hikes in days we took, which is a lot of hike.
Was that part of the physical training?
That's part of the training.
Can you describe some other parts of your training?
Well, rifle range, I remember that. I made sharpshooter.
What type of rifle did you use?
Well, I used the M1, and I fired the M1 rifle, the M1 carbine, and 30 caliber machine gun. I fired the 45 and the BAR and mortar, 60 millimeter mortar. I fired that down there.
Is there any one weapon that you enjoyed more than another?
Well, I guess the M1 rifle.
Why?
Well, it was just a good, handy rifle, and everybody had one. And so that was the main weapon.
Did you become a sharpshooter in your regiment later on?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember your instructors that took you through basic training?
I remember, yeah, there was a Sergeant Brown, and there was a Corporal Dixon. He was in charge of my platoon, and he was the instructor. Oh, we thought he was heck, but he turned out to be a nice guy.
Did he push you to your extreme?
Yeah, he put us through the training, and he was strict. We thought he was, but I guess if he hadn't done what he'd done, we wouldn't have done as better as we did. So he put us through it.
Who else was in your platoon that you became close to?
Well, there was a guy named Moon, M-O-O-N, from Mullins, West Virginia. That's about, I remember him. Then a guy named Casey from Baltimore, Maryland. I remember him. But I don't remember too many of them. But this Corporal Dixon, he was our instructor. In 1946, I was coming from the hospital, out of the hospital, heading back to my outfit, and met him again in France, in a replacement depot. And surprised me. 3 years later, and it was the sergeant. And he said he went over to the 29th Division, and he was wounded. And he was back there running projectors and things for entertainment for the troops in a replacement depot. He was from Illinois.
But you hadn't seen him from the time
3 years.
For 3 years.
And walked right up on him.
Did he recognize you? Who did you become most closely attached to in the platoon or regiment or company?
I had about six, 7 guys that was real good friends. A boy named Albert Masters from Lynchburg. He stayed in, made a career of it. And a boy named Chester Riccoboni from Long Island, New York. A name of Haggerty from Massachusetts. And Michael Pipley, he was from Ohio. And a guy named Ray Ross, Kentucky. Bethel R. Davis, he was from Oklahoma.
And did you go around with them?
We was all just say the group together, more or less. We went around together and everything like that.
Did you have common interests also outside the Army?
Well, I went to New York and saw a boy named Chester Riccoboni in 48, I think it was, and seen him. And I went to Lynchburg and met the Albert Masters, and he married a German girl and had children down there, and I seen him. Then he got stationed at the Pentagon, and I used to talk to him and his wife on the phone and so.
While you were at Camp Wheeler, do you recall any activities that you did that at the time seemed extremely stupid?
Yeah.
Can you explain one?
You do something wrong, they always have some kind of detail for you. And there ain't nothing saying in Camp Wheeler. So they had a lawnmower out there. If you done something wrong, to make you go out there and go up and down the street like you're mowing grass.
But you weren't.
No, you weren't. Just do it. Or else you get 2 or 3 booms and pull behind you and go up and down the streets and smooth the sand out and all real good and things like that.
Did you ever get assigned that?
Dragging the street with a broom once, I think it did. Mm-hmm.
Was there any activities that you participated in boot camp that you later found to be life-saving activities?
Well, I'd say everything that Corporal Dixon learned us. He learned us how to, to dig foxholes and do things like that, and learned us how to keep warm in a foxhole. You build a fire, you dig your hole, put the wood in it, and build a fire. Then after you got burned good, you covered up back up with sand. Then you sleep on there at night when you're out in the field. That kept you warm.
And you did that in combat too?
Not in combat, but I did down there. Because you got kind of cool indoors at night. In combat, we didn't. We just slept in the foxhole.
Was there any time during that basic training at Camp Wheeler that you thought that you had made a mistake?
I guess probably half the GIs did. But we sweat it out and went through it.
Were you religious during the war?
Not really. I went to, church when I was a kid, but I never was, really went that much. But I did carry a Bible with me. I still got it over.
After basic training, which I believe lasted 6 weeks, did you have more training?
It was 13 weeks.
13 weeks.
Yeah, then I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And we took other more training. And
were you with the same platoon at the time?
no, a different outfit. And we said, I can't remember how long it was up there.
What did you do there at Jacksonville?
We did just training, physical training, rifle training, go out on the range, and calisthenics, and march, and go down to there's a little town called down on Route 1 in South Carolina. We had double time down there. It was a 7-mile round trip, double time, and back. Exercise and stuff like that. Do all kinds of training.
Did you help anybody who was on the edge of quitting? Or?
No, I've seen a lot of them fall out and pass out, but I never did. I felt like it a few times, but I never did.
After you left South Carolina, where did you go?
I went to Camp Gordon, Georgia.
And what did you do at Camp Gordon?
More training. Rifle training and bayonets. Bayonet, no, I didn't like that.
Why not?
Oh, they called it the right thrust and left thrust, and you was sticking in these dummies. I just something that I didn't like. That's the only thing I didn't like.
Did you find that you used that in combat?
Well, I never had to use my bayonet, no, in combat.
I think you're in Georgia now. From Georgia, where did you go?
I went to, the Battle of the Bulge come on.
So, when did you leave the United States?
Well, I left Camp Gordon, Georgia, when the Battle of the Bulge come on. I was going to send us to Europe, so I went to Fort Meade, Maryland. Went up our small process, that was about a week. And then I went to Camp Shanks, New York. And we was there about a week or so. Then I put me on the boat.
What boat did you cross the ocean on?
On Queen Mary. When I went to Glasgow, Scotland.
And do you remember what month you left the United States?
In December, I think it was.
Of 1944?
44. Last of December 44. And then we got to Glasgow, Scotland.
So you were in the United States for about a year and a half in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And then you headed out of Camp Shanks on the Queen Mary
Mm-hmm.
and got to Glasgow.
Glasgow.
And what did you do in there?
Well, we got on the train and sent us to Southampton, England. Went down through London, and we got on a Liberty ship.
Now, you were in the 26th Division at this time?
Not yet.
Not yet.
And got on a Liberty ship and went to Le Havre, France.
Right.
And from Le Havre, we was over a couple of days, put us on the train and shipped us to Metz, France.
Were you in a replacement depot?
Yes, we was replacements.
Okay, so you got to Metz.
Metz.
And you still weren't with the 26th?
Metz, when they signed us to 26th Division.
Right. Did anybody else get assigned that you were training with?
A boy named McGrain was in Georgia with me. He got in the 26th. It was quite a few of us, but I don't remember all their names. And from Metz, where we joined the 26th, and I went to, marched into a place called Merton, Biblin, France. That was northern France. And from there we went into, let's see, what do you call that river there?
The Rhine?
No, it was just into Germany to the.
Well, let's back up. Let's talk about your trip over on the Queen Mary. Do you recall any incidences that happened?
Nothing in particular other than I think it said something like 22,000 of us on there, and it was awful crowded. And they're doing you took turns. I was lucky. I got a bunk, but a lot of them had to take turns. One would sleep on the bunk one night, and he'd go next night. He'd share it with somebody else, and he'd go sleep on deck. And I think we got 100 and some Red Cross girls on there with us. I remember the boat zigzagging, and he felt like it was going to turn over. You could look down and see the water almost up there, and next thing you was way up here where the boat was zigzagging like that.
Did you sleep in the deep part of the ship, or were you on near the deck?
I was down in our ways. Bunks was real close. It wasn't 2 foot apart, stacked up. I think it was 4 or 5 high. And you would have to tie your barracks bag. The barracks bag called them in, wasn't a duffel bag. You tie that to your bunk because you didn't. The ship going back and forth, and then it might be up 3 or 4 aisles up. Then here it come back, sliding back out.
Was it cold or warm?
It was warm on the ship. Yeah, it wasn't cold. It was, I guess, it's 1st of January, sometime early in January when I went over there.
When you got into England and you looked around, did you have any time to sightsee or make friends with any natives?
When I went in?
When you were in England, before you
I went straight down from Scotland to Southampton and put us on the boat. I didn't have no time. I went across over to France.
And during this trip, did you make any friends, or were you with the same
No,
folks?
There were so many of us that we really didn't know each other. So many different guys from all over, and you didn't have time really to make friends on the boat.
And when you got into France at Le Havre, they just shuffled you to Metz.
Uh-huh.
And how long were you in the replacement depot before you were assigned to 26?
Oh, it was just a couple of days. Then we went from Merton, Biblin, I told you. We went to the Saar Valley.
The
Saarbrücken.
Okay.
Over in Germany. That's when I really got into it heavy.
Okay, can you tell me the very first time that you had to fire your rifle in anger?
Well, we was in Saarlautern, Germany, right there on the Saar River. And we was on one side of the river, and the Germans was over in Saarbrücken on the other side of the river. And it was wet weather, and the river was up, so we really wasn't advancing. We was more or less holding.
And this was in January of 45? Okay.
45, and we was holding, and we had machine gunners in a schoolhouse right at the river, and they was downstairs, and we used to go upstairs, and the windows faced the river. And they was great big wide windows, but the glass was all gone, and nothing but the windows, and the walls were real thick. And we'd go up there with the M1 rifle, and we'd fire our whole clip across the river to the Germans, then get back between the walls, between the windows, and look behind us and watch the bullets come through the window and hit the wall. We thought it was entertainment, you know. We didn't realize how dangerous it was. Then I remember that the town, the civilians was all gone.
Who else was with you during that episode up in the upstairs?
I can't remember too many of them boys' names, because I really don't, you know, we never really got to know boys' names. We didn't have time, really. Because you know, they might be here today and gone tomorrow.
What squad were you in?
Well, I was in the 101st Infantry.
Right.
F Company, they call it.
Were you assigned to any platoon or squad while you were in that?
I don't remember what squad it was.
How about your leaders that were telling you where to go and what to do while you were in 26?
You mean the non-commissioned officers telling us what to do and
right.
where to go? Well, I remember one incident one time. We went across a little river up there. But maybe I better start back where it wanted, so that's where it started. We went marching up to the Black Forest in Germany.
Black Forest, okay.
And we began to get a lot of shelling, and they told us that the airbursts would hit those trees and spray down the guys. We was told not to be in a forest like that, and I don't know why we got in there. So we got out of that and went on down this little valley between two mountains. And the dirt road went down through there, and this little bridge, and the dirt road went round up over the mountain. Well, put us, my squad, on one side of the hill, and the rest of them was on the other side and down that valley. And they told us in training never to dig in where a crossroads was. But I don't know why they put us in there. And me and this Corporal Baker, he was my digging buddy. And we was digging this hole on the side of this mountain, and beside me, the end of where we was digging the foxhole, was a little old bush yard. It was about 4 foot tall. And we was digging and sitting down there and talking. All of a sudden, I heard these shells over there. And I looked, and about half of that little bush fell over in the hole. A piece of shrapnel that hit it and cut into. And we did go to digging.
Is that the first time you were under fire?
A real fire, yeah. Well, I was under it in Saarlautern too, but we was more or less in houses there. In Saarbrücken, we was in houses.
How long did the shelling last?
It seemed like it was a couple of hours. I know the next day I went out there and couldn't find nobody, and found out they had pulled out during the night and left us there to guard that road. So it was cold, and we went down over and looked to see if we could find some blankets things. And there was 3 foxholes over where it was 2 guys each, and it was dead. Shells had landed in the night and killed them.
Because those were the first dead bodies you had seen?
No, I'd seen German bodies, but I hadn't seen really any Americans dead, other than I'd seen some wounded. But they were the first dead Americans I'd really seen.
How did you feel?
I didn't feel too good.
You didn't know those two?
Well, I knew one of them was our sergeant, but I knew that. But really, I don't remember their names or anything.
After that shelling at the crossroads and you seen those 2 dead Americans, what did you do?
Well, We stayed there, and that's even sometime. A Jeep came back and told us we were supposed to stay there and yard that crossroad, and they'd be back and get us later, next day or something.
How many folks were with you about that time?
12 left on that side of the hill. And then the next day, a Jeep come and picked up what he could haul and told us to start walking, and we would, they'd try to come back and get us. Well, we started walking. We finally got on a tank and rode, and then they got to shelling, so we dove off the tank and ran into these houses. And that's where I first met the German, really met the German civilians, because they was all leaving the towns. I remember that it was this house, and I went upstairs, and there was a lady and a man, German. They was having some dinner and eating blackberry cobbler pie. Well, my mother she wasn't made good blackberry cobbler pie. And these people invited me to sit down. So I went back downstairs and I told the sergeant, I said, Sergeant, come on. I said, go up here, there's people's eating you, and you want to go up and have some. So me and him went up and sat down and ate with them. Blackberry cobbler pie.
You and the sergeant?
Me and the sergeant. And that was the first really contact I had with, German civilians.
Could they talk to you? Did they know
English?
English?
Yeah, but a lot of Germans speak fairly good English.
Okay.
And from there, we had to go across the river to another little town, and we had to carry some 10-in-1 rations. That's the big boxes of rations. And we carried them across, and I don't know how we got across. So it looked like me some boys across the river, and I was actually scared. And got across the river with those, and the sergeant over says, we got 3 more boxes over there. We got to get across. And we want 3 volunteers, you, and you. I was one of them yous. I really didn't want to go, but I went. And I come back, got it, and we brought it back. And then they put us, and we got in the house, and that night we heard the Germans coming. They had them hobnail shoes, and in town you could hear them coming a block away. And they cut down on them and shooting into them. Well, the next morning, there was one dead laying outside, and they brought some back that was wounded. The Germans surrendered and brought back some wounded. But the best thing I remember about this house, we went in, I went downstairs, and there was this old lady and old man, and this young girl and a young boy. And the mama was crying. And I asked the young girl, now she could speak some fair English. And I asked her, I said, what's wrong with the mama? Says the Germans told her we was going to hurt them. Well, I assured her we would go hurt them. And so I got her quieted down and talked to her a while. And I went upstairs, came back down, and the girl was crying. I asked her, what's wrong with you? She said, one of the GIs, it took the watch away from her. Well, GIs would take anything, Took the watch away from her. So I said, all right. I went back upstairs, and I asked them who got it, and they told me. I told them, I said, look, we got to stay here, and these are the Germans, and they good to us, and we're going to be good to them. So I got the watch and took it back to her, give it to her. And I don't know where she got it, but she went out and found me some eggs someplace, fixed them for me. And she was very nice. But the boy never said a word to me. But I honestly believe he was a deserter from the German army because they were throwing the uniforms away and putting their civilian clothes on. But when I left her that next day, she came upstairs and I think tears came in her eyes. Then I went out in the field and got wounded. About 1,000 yards from my house.
She went out in the field?
Out in the field.
Was she wounded by a bullet or a...
Bullet.
But not killed?
No, lucky. I've seen the lieutenant, he got shot and all, and the shrapnel, I guess it was a 20 millimeter, they said, hit a tree where he was at. And the shrapnel hit him all up and down the back. But,
did you ever find out about the boy?
Well, this corporal and I both got wounded at the same time. out in this field.
You and a corporal.
And the corporal.
Yeah, I didn't want to go away.
Corporal Baker.
Yeah, let's stick with this family that you were saying. You had saw two families. One that gave you blackberry pie.
Yeah.
And then this other one with the children and the old woman, old man.
Old man.
These children, they were about 15 years old?
No, the girl, she finally went and got me some pictures and showed me the girl was her husband. That boy was her. And now, I was cutting up, carrying on with her and everything, and, done made good friends with her. And I found out she went and got a picture, showed me, and finally, it was her husband. And she must have been about 20, young girl. She was a real nice girl, German girl.
Did you keep in touch with any of these folks afterwards?
I often wished I'd have got her address, but I didn't. But I did some later on when I went back for the second time. I went back to see some that I'd met.
And 3 years later.
3 years later.
Right. So, overall, did you find the German civilians delightful, happy?
I found them very good people, very nice, because I talked to a lot of them. And the Germans, I like talking to Germans. I sat down and learned a lot of German off of them, the language, Especially children. You can talk to children and learn better than you can to, older people, because they didn't speak as good as they didn't use better words as you did when you get older. The children don't.
Had this been something you had been expecting, or was this nice German something you had not been told about?
No, I hadn't been told that the Germans would cooperate at all with us, but they did. They was just as wanted to get this over as bad as we did. The German civilians did.
Did you feel that they knew they were losing?
Well, not really. They never said anything.
Can you tell me how long you were in combat before you were wounded?
Well, I went in sometime January, and then January, February, in the middle of March.
So about 2 months.
January and February, 2 months and a half.
Can you tell me some more about your combat before you were wounded?
Well, let's see. I can remember some things we used to do. Most all the houses in Germany, they done blowed the roof off of them, shells, and we would stay in the basement of the houses, and we'd go upstairs, and I would stand guard to the back door, and the machine gun squad watched the front door. And right up over top, from the first floor we was on, right up on the overhead, the steps that went downstairs, there was artillery shells sticking in that ceiling. It went in, I don't know if it was a dud or it probably was a dud, it didn't go off. And I used to watch that every day. I was afraid it was going to fall. Then they told us we had to go up because we was going to do some advancing. So we went upstairs, and we'd shoot out the windows and shoot, and then we lay down on the floor. And then it was nighttime, and you could look over your head like this and watch the tracers go by. German tracers going by.
As a sniper, did you have any special equipment?
No, nothing other than what an infantry man had. Gas mask and all. We throw the gas masks away. We used to carry all our cigarettes and our food and stuff in the pouch. We didn't have the mask in there no more.
When you were in combat, did you see any of your squad members or platoon members get wounded?
Well, yeah, I'm Corporal Baker, and we had a little sergeant. I can't remember what his name was.
Can you tell me what happened to Corporal Baker?
He got shot when I did.
At the same time?
At the same time. We was up in this field, and we was...
what were you doing in the field?
Well, we were supposed to be advancing that town down over the hill, and evidently the Germans it was like a long hill went down there, and you could see the town down there. We was shelling it, and you could see the slate from the roof. The artillery shells were flying off, and evidently the Germans had sneaked up that hill in them woods, and we didn't know it. And when they started shooting, we was trying to get back into that little village, back to them houses.
Was it just you two, or was there more?
I don't really know if there's any more or not.
Okay.
I know I went back there. At first, I didn't feel a thing. And a little later, I felt, I guess the blood run down my leg and into my boot, and she got shot in the leg and the foot. And I felt that. And so me and Corporal Baker, we went to the aid station back there. Then that's when I found out I'd been shot.
In the right leg?
In the right leg, yeah.
Were you wounded anywhere else at the
No,
same time?
just the right leg.
Were you bleeding real bad? Emergency case?
Well, I felt it hot blood down my boot, so I didn't have far to get to the aid station. When they got the boot off, then they put some kind of powder and stuff on there and took care of it. But from there to the aid station, they put us on the Jeep, and we went across the river and went to another aid station.
That was the Saarburg River?
I can't remember that little river.
All right.
And over there, they put us in the aid station. The corporal and I was laying on a stretcher on the floor, and this German woman was laying on a stretcher right beside me, and she had been shot in the stomach. And they would, I guess Americans were going to take care of her. I remember that. And there we went to the center of Luxembourg City, Luxembourg. It was 24 hours later before I even got really anything done to me, and my leg and foot, it was on fire by that time. And they took me up to the operating room and go give me a shot, told me to lay down, and I said no. I was afraid to go cut my leg off. So I watched them, they operated on it and everything. And there, stayed up there for a while, and there just hit me with Verdun, France.
Can you tell me about the wound? Did it go through muscle only?
Mostly. It didn't break the leg or nothing like that. But my toes is wrinkled from where some of it hit in the front of my foot and stuff like that.
Did you, could you still walk?
Well, I did with crutches, yeah. They give us crutches to walk on.
Well, when you got to Verdun, tell me what happened.
Well, it took us upstairs and put us in a regular hospital bed. And I was there altogether, I guess I was in the hospital about maybe 4 weeks at the most. And from there, that's when they sent us back to replacement deacon when I met Corporal Dixon again in France.
What job did they give you after that?
I went on back and joined my outfit.
The same one?
Yeah, the same outfit. Went on up to
that would be
I
mid-April.
remember going to Munich, going back up there, and I went up to and joined an outfit in Beirut, Germany. And there we went on into Austria. I remember going into Austria, and I wound up in Czechoslovakia. We finally wound up in a place called Vadiany, Czechoslovakia, which is right out from Pilsen, Czechoslovakia. And I got pictures over there. Some girl and me, I took a picture of them, and we had a roadblock there, and we were supposed to, our job then days was keep the Russians in their side and we in our side. But that was kind of hard to do.
Did you see any more combat after you were wounded?
A little bit, very little. Because in March, it was the time I got back to my outfit, and then, of course, the war was over on May the 8th, I think it was, wasn't it? And very, very little.
Can you tell me how the food was while you were in the bases here in the States, and then versus the food that you got when you were in combat area?
Well, we got decent good food here in the States. I never had any trouble with food because I was 118 pounds when I went in, and I come out as 135. So I gained weight, and good food. But over there, we eat K rations and 10-in-1s and, C rations and stuff like that. But it kept us going.
Were there any times that you didn't have enough?
We went up in the mountains up in there, and of course I hadn't had a good meal for a long time. And this company up there they was serving them pancakes, and I didn't have no mess kit. And I said, well, they when the company went through, they told any of you other GIs that want something, they'd come over here and get it. Well, I went over there and they said, what do you want to do with them? I said, well, I ain't got no mess kit. Put them right there. And pour the syrup on them. And that's the way I ate them.
How about the weather during the January and February offensives?
It was pretty cold. We'd try to scrounge the blankets. The Germans was moving, and they left a lot of equipment. And we'd get a German blanket maybe for a night and wrap up in it or something like that. But it was pretty chilly. I got one incident I got to tell you about. When I went to the hospital and finally got to, I guess it was, I thought maybe, yeah, it was Luxembourg. I went in there and they put me in the bed. And this nurse come in and she says, would you like me to shave you and wash you off? I says, well, I'd rather have something to eat. I ain't had nothing to eat for a long time. She says, well, we'll see what I can do. She was gone about 5 or 10 minutes, come back and fed me. Nice dinner. And then she said, now you want me to shave you and wash you? I said, no, I'm going to sleep. So I went to sleep. And the next time, I don't know how long I slept, I felt I had a ring on my finger. I felt my hand was over my head, and I felt something going round and round with that ring. And I looked up, it was this nurse. I swear I thought I died, gone to heaven when I looked at her. And she says, now you want me to wash you and shave you, and she did. But I'll never forget her.
Can you remember her name?
No, I don't. I wish I had. But I got 2 dog tags over there of 2 nurses, and I don't know where I got them. Still in one of them boxes over there. But I did. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. And I looked up and seen her.
Was she pretty to you?
Yeah. She was very nice. All the nurses I met was nice.
What did you do while you were trying to recover from your wound, besides what the story you just gave me?
Well, I finally got enough, to get on crutches, and this corporal, and there's another corporal, I don't remember his last name. He had a cast on from here to here, and it threw around his arms, and he had 2 handles on it. He's supposed to lay on it and hold them at night. Well, we wanted to go to town. He couldn't put his shirt on, so we went down to Red Cross. And I cut the handles off with the hacksaw for him, and we went in town and looked around town and burned down France, things like that.
Did you visit any tourist stops while you were in France?
No, none that I can remember any of them. I didn't have a chance. I didn't, we went through France so much that we didn't have time to stop and do a whole lot. But after I got in Germany was when I got to seeing more.
Did you find the civilians of these different countries acted differently towards you?
No, they didn't act any different. I've met German girls, Austrian girls, and some Czechoslovakia. People up there was nice to me. We stayed in the houses with civilians up there, and they was nice to us.
Did you end up killing anybody?
Well, I couldn't say it, actually face to face, but you see guys going, you're shooting, and you wouldn't have said exactly, I did it.
How did you feel?
Well, like old Colonel Scott told us, that was our colonel that met when we first went in 26th Division. He said, you get up there, you're going to have a heck of a feeling when you pull your rifle up on a man. He says, either kill or be killed, and make your mind a damn hurry. So that's what you did. It was either you or him.
Did you ever see anybody who liked killing?
Anybody what?
Anybody who liked to kill?
Well, not particular, exactly. But after the war, I met a lot of Germans. We had German prisoners we used to guard up there, and we had wood details and cutting in the mountains up there in Bavaria. We was in Bavarian Alps for a long time. And I sat around the fire and talked with them, the German soldiers, and they were no different from us. They was only doing what they told, just like we was. And I made friends with a lot of the German soldiers.
Did you ever meet any hardcore Nazis?
No, was it von Rundstedt? I seen him sitting in a Jeep, and I was closer here to you to him, that German. That's the only, the high official German I think I ever met. He was a prisoner when I seen him.
Did you free any prisoners?
I came in, I seen a lot of them, and a lot of them was dead people, you know, skeletons and just skin and bone. But actually, we didn't go into, I didn't go into the camp to free them, but I've seen them afterwards.
How did it make you feel? And when
Not
I say
too good, you see all them dead people laying around like that. So they was civilians, you know, Jews and Hungarians and Polish and like that. Now I did a little town up there called the Dice. That's in Czechoslovakia, I think it was. The Germans went there and wiped the whole town out because they had too much underground was fighting the Germans, you know. And they wiped the whole town down and bulldozed the whole town over and sowed in grass. And wasn't nothing up over a monument of the people, for the people. Because I wound up in what's called a Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia. Right now, that's the Czech part of it. The other part half is Slovakia, they call it now.
So you never went and saw any of the death camps, or?
No, I didn't get in none of them. I did see that mine up there where all them gold and all that art was at. The Nazis had hid in these caves. We got there, but they wouldn't let me go in it. But I did see that.
Did you see any American prisoners of war that were released?
Well, this little Corporal Baker, he had been a prisoner of war. He was in northern France when the Germans took over or overrode them or something other. And he told me that it was only about just a few of them, maybe 20 or 25 of them. And he said they used to go out on work details, and the Germans put them in the truck, and the Germans handed them their rifle to hold till they got in the truck. They was good to them, he said. But the French started uprising in the town. And the Germans got afraid the French was going to get them. So they told the Americans, said, what we'll do, we'll turn ourselves over to you as your prisoner if you'll hold us till the Americans get here, because we don't want to be turned over to the French. And he did. So they turned him over to them, and then later they told him then, says, your dog tag has been sent to Berlin and everything. Now he told me this. I don't know if that's really true. And I said, your dog tag will turn in, and if they catch you again, they'll catch you as a spy. So he was always worried. But when him and I got wounded, I think he was actually happy because he knew he could get out of it because he did not want to be captured again, see. But he was only captured the way he talked to me about 3 weeks. But he said they treated him good. They did.
Could you tell me after the war ended, what were your jobs?
Well, we was back in a little town called Spital up here in Austria. And they had a railroad car there with German ammunition on it. And we started guarding that. We was up there at the bottom. We guarded that until they finally come and got it. Then they sent us back into the Bavarian Alps, a place called Grundlsee, Austria. And that's where the German camp was back in there, the prisoners. And we was taking them out of details and the Germans was cutting wood and was taking it to a railroad station and putting on railroad cars, and he was shipped in. I think they sent it to towns or something other. But that's where I met a lot of German prisoners. Used to sit and talk to them. But they would maybe give us 50 prisoners to go out, take out in the woods and cut wood. And we'd go in at night, we might be short 3, 4, 5 of them. And next day we'd take 50 out again, we might be 3, 4, 5 over. Well, what they did, the Germans, some of them would sneak out and go in town, spend the night, and the next day they'd sneak back in, get in the group, because we was feeding them and housing them. They wasn't going to place. And they'd come back. But I talked to a lot of them, sat there and talked to them and everything. And I had a German sergeant. He told me we were going to have trouble with the Russians, as the Americans would eventually. So it was that long when we were sitting around the fire talking. But I seen some GIs mean to them too. They would beat them and take things away from them, but I never did.
I want to go back to your combat before you were wounded. Did you ever see any German armor attacking you?
Not. I heard them. You can, like, it was in them towns, you could hear them coming, and the guns going off. But I never, run right into them or nothing. But I did say I've seen quite a few German dead. The first one I ever seen, we was marching in this little town, and it was dark, and I seen something laying down there, and I looked. It was half of a man from here down. The tanks and things that ran over him so much, it just was gone. And we was in this little town of Saarlautern, and there was a German soldier right out the window there. He was dead down on a stretcher. And he stayed there the whole time we was there.
Did you have to throw any hand grenades during the war?
Not really. I had them, but I never really got close enough that I didn't need to throw them or use the bayonet. I never did that.
Did you ever have to retreat?
No, we didn't. I don't ever remember retreating. Bouncing on up.
How many points did you have at the end of the war?
Well, we got, let's see, well as I remember, we got 5 for each, 5 for each month you was in the service, or a year? 5 each month, I think it was. And it doubled for each month you was overseas. I forget how many I had, but time to come to home when my 26th Division was going home, me and this Corporal Masters down at Lynchburg, we didn't want to go home because things was nice and we was having a good time. So we signed 3-month waivers. I think it was 2 of them we signed. It was 6 more months we signed them to stay on. Then he re-enlisted for 3 more years then.
When the war ended in Europe, did you have any fear about going to the Pacific?
Going to where?
To the Pacific.
Oh, yeah. When we left Czechoslovakia, they pulled us out of Czechoslovakia, and they told us we went to Würzburg, Germany, and we were supposed to do some training, but they were going to ship us over to the Pacific, because it was Japan. And we got down there, and little place, Würzburg, Germany, and the place, and they told us over there, and they said, General Patton's coming to see us. I was in the 3rd Army. And General Patton's come see you, and he's going to give you a talk. And he said, they told us, everybody better get a haircut because he brings his own barber. And he'll give you a haircut right down to nothing. And if it's half done when he gets ready to go, that's where he quits. Well, that's what I say, General Patton. Well, we all got us a haircut before he got there. And then the war was over in Japan, so then they sent us back into Austria. So it didn't have to go.
So you decided to stay in the Army another 6 months?
Uh-huh.
Was there something you didn't want to face here, or just having too much fun?
No, I just enjoyed it because the war was over and we was in good towns and we didn't really do anything. We didn't have no special jobs, just running maybe Vienna once a week on a mail train and things like that. And I took a furlough and went to Switzerland. I was up there for a week, I guess it was, in furlough in Switzerland. That was just like stepping out of a war-torn country into the United States. That's how much difference it was. Because you see, they was neutral. Switzerland was up in there.
Did your wound bother you any after you had gotten out of the hospital?
Well, I get a disability part now, but it used to, especially in the cold weather, it was just like felt like a toothache down in your leg and foot. I kept it for quite a few years, but for the last few years it's not hadn't done it. But I still get it. I've been getting since '46. And then I wasn't even going to put into it for it. And I was got out of the Army in Fort Meade and went up to this place, and this, I guess, nurse or what it was, went up, I was going to put in for disability. I said, I don't know. She said, well, we're going to do it. And she did, and it came through.
Did you ever visit Berlin?
No, but I was in Vienna. But I never right in Berlin, no.
After the war, did you do anything to help the civilians?
Well, I met an awful lot of them up there, but we was mostly, especially at the place in Grundles, who was that woodcut detail. I met a lot of civilians up in there and people, and I met a German, Austrian boy. His sister was a doctor in California. And at that time, the Germans couldn't write to the United States. And he asked me, if he wrote letters to his sister in California, would I put them in an envelope and mail them from like it was from me? And I used to do that. And she'd write back to me and put an envelope, and I'd give it to him. So I never did. I never, other than those letters back and forth for him, I used to do it. He was a young boy. And we had a little Polish boy that stayed with us all the time, too. He was a displaced person, no parents, and the GIs took care of him.
What was his name?
Well, I know it was Polak. That's what we called him, the little Polish boy.
Did you know what happened to him after you left?
No, I understand one of the lieutenants was going to try to get him to America, to a displaced person, they call it. But we had a German soldier now stayed up there with us. He was mechanic and took care of our trucks and everything. Now, him and I used to get along good. We'd have to go across the mountain over in the truck to get supplies, and I'd take him and I'd go at night, go across the mountain, and get supplies and come back. And all I know is his name was Shorty, because he was short.
Did you have any nicknames?
No.
Did you carry anything for good luck?
I got a little Bible where I kept with me all the time.
Did you see any entertainment during your time in the service?
When I was in Verdun, and I seen we had some girls come up in the USO. That's the only time I saw it upstairs. I seen that. I know I was at that time. I was up on about the 3rd floor, and it wasn't too long after I got wounded, and I'd go up maybe a half a flight of stairs and sit down, another half, and it took me a while, but I got up there.
Were these entertainers anybody's famous?
Well, in Camp Wheeler, Georgia now, I seen Bob Hope, Jerry Colonna, and Francis Langford. I don't know if you remember Francis Langford or not. And Jerry Colonna, the big mouth boy, man, and I seen him down in Camp Wheeler, Georgia.
Was there any time during your service where your morale really went low?
Well, a lot of times I was afraid of dying and afraid of living.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, you're just scared to death all the time. You didn't know what's going to happen, where you're going to be here tomorrow or not.
While you were in combat, I know we talked about this, about the training, but while you were in combat, was there any funny things that happened to you?
I wouldn't know if anything funny. I know they asked for volunteers one night to go up and answer the phone up in the Ford place there in Saarlautern, Germany. And they couldn't get none, so I said, I'll do it. And I went up there and lay there and tried to answer the rest of the phone and keep them going to sleep in the basements and things. And finally I give that up and went up there and stood out and guarded them. It was so darn cold, I stood guarding them with a sleeping bag. Just get in it and zip it up and take your rifle and put it in there with you and stand there all night. inside of a sleeping bag.
While you were in combat, did you see any other soldiers pull pranks?
We pull what?
Pranks.
No, not really. We had a Mexican boy, though. Every time you look for him, he'd be asleep. Even on guard. He said, ain't nobody out there. So they couldn't really trust him.
Did he ever find anybody that was there that he didn't know? Or was he right?
Was he what?
Was he right that nobody was really ever coming?
Well, I think he's wrong. Because he should have been standing, watching.
Did you see any people get punished for doing wrong things?
No, not doing combat. No, I didn't see anybody get punished for that.
What did you think about your officers that were in charge?
Well, I remember Lieutenant Kemper, that's the one who got wounded, and Captain Siebes. And I was laying in a ditch up there in the field, trying to get in a culvert to shelters, and I seen this Captain Siebes going back, and I said, I just seen somebody going, and I hollered, where the hell do you think you're going? And looked up, it was the captain, says, well, I'll be right back. He was going down there, I guess, to call in some artillery or something. But officers, they was just like us. They didn't figure any difference.
Did you feel like they knew what they were doing?
The lieutenant, we had a lieutenant same lieutenant got shot in the arm one night. We had machine gunners in the front room. We was in the back end, and they called the walkie-talkie. The telephone was out. The lady would go through and lay these wires, you know. And so the lieutenant, they didn't tell him it was coming. And they come in the front door and was pulling that wire, and the machine gunner shot at him with a .45, hit him right in the watch there and went through his arm.
Did you think they knew what they were doing?
Yeah, they knew what they were doing, but they hadn't told them that they was coming. So they didn't know there wasn't Germans that sneaked in the front door thing.
Did you keep a diary during your wartime experience?
No, I didn't.
Did you contact your family?
Oh, I used to write to my mother when I could. And
what type of stuff did you tell her?
I can't really remember. I have to look at all them letters to see, but I can't remember.
How did you write your mother?
How did I write to her? Oh, you mean whenever we got a chance? Oh, well, especially we stayed in the basements a lot, and then you get a chance, we'd take I used to pick up all the little candles I could find, and we'd set them up, then we'd have light, and write a letter to them about candles, and whenever we got a chance, we'd give it to supply if they come up and bring us stuff, and they'd take it back and mail it for us, say. And occasionally we'd get letters back. I got a letter over there, and my brother wrote me. He was in England in the hospital. I was in Georgia. Well, when I got the letter, I was in Czechoslovakia, and he was in Fort Story, Virginia. That's how long it took to catch up with me.
Can you tell me about your brother?
Well...
What is his name?
Shannon Ferguson.
And what was he in?
He was in the 83rd Division. Same division I got in later in. But he was in the heavy weapons company, and he got shot in his legs, machine gun.
Did he lose his legs?
No. He got shot pretty bad at St. Lo. But he didn't. He loved athletics before he went into service. But he can't do none of that now. And he used to, and hurt his back too. He'd come up one of them, I think it was one of them hedgerows, and they shot him, and it hurt his back, and he spent a lot of time in the hospital for that. And later on, he'd have to go to the Veterans Hospital up in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and they'd go up there for a week or so, and work on his back. But for the last few years, he hadn't said anything about it been bothering him.
So you never crossed paths?
No, we never run into each other.
How about your sisters?
Huh?
How about your sisters during the war? What did they do?
They was too little. They was young. I used to write to them and things like that to my mother and everything. I had two young sisters.
Did they send you anything while you were overseas?
No, but my mother did. She would, especially when I was up in Czechoslovakia, we didn't have no regular meals, and she'd send me some bouillon soup. You know what that is? It's like a powder, and you make a soup out of it, and it tastes pretty good. And you add hot water to it, stuff like that. She'd send odds and ends to us.
Did your buddies share any of these treats that your mother sent?
Yeah, if you had stuff, you'd always share it with your buddies, your friends. You got in the Army, you got to just like everybody was your brother.
Do you recall the day that you left Europe to come home?
Well, I was in Salzburg, Austria by that time, and actually the day, I don't really recall the day, but I know we got the orders about a week later we was leaving, and we was going home.
And where did you get on the boat to go home?
I went to La Havre, France. Camp Philip Morris, they called it.
Why?
I don't know why they named it that, but that's what it's named, Camp Philip Morris. That was a depot to ship them home.
And what boat did you get on?
I got on the George Washington and came back to the United States.
Was that a Liberty ship?
No, that was a regular ship. So I've been on the George Washington, SS Marine Shark, went overseas, the Queen Mary, the Queen Elizabeth, and a Liberty ship.
On the ride home, was there any different experience?
No. The guys, I guess there's so many of them happy to be going home. A lot of gambling on it. Them boys said, gee, I was gambling like good crazy.
What did you do with the money that you made while you were in the war?
They never gave us no money during the war. We didn't need none. We got it paid after. But I sent mine home to my mother to take care of it for me. I sent a few $1,000s home by saving my money. And we had we had what they call a currency control book. It was like a bank book. And every month you got paid, they put, let's say I was getting 54 plus 10% overseas and $10 combat pay. And they put that down in that currency control book. And well, you could send all that home, and you could get money by selling something, cigarettes especially there. And I'd send all that money home. And we had guys that never sent no money home. A boy from New York and one from Ohio, I think it was. Well, I'd use their currency control book, and I'd send some money home. I'd go up and get money orders off of their currency control book, and I'd give them half, and I'd keep half and send it home to my mother. That's the way I got money home.
Do you recall the day that the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and started this?
Yeah, I was working with Howard Johnson down the Fairfax Circle, old Fairfax Circle on Route 50 down there. I remember it was the day that I was done got off. There was a little gas station across the street, and an old feller, a good friend of mine, he used to go over and talk to him, and I'd work for him part-time when he got to go places, and I was over with him when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
And did you have any feelings that you would be part of this war?
Well, I figured I would sooner or later. But, I would never heard of Pearl Harbor before that. I guess a lot of guys didn't.
How about when we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Well, I was in Europe, and it really didn't affect me that much. Not really.
When you got back here to the States, where did you go?
Where did I go?
Yes.
I lived at Merrifield. My mother was living at Merrifield at that time, and I went to work for, body shop, an auto body shop. And I worked for him for 3 years, then I went back to Europe. So I retired from Jim McKay Chevrolet body shop. That's what I wound up doing the rest of my life.
Was your dad alive while you were? You keep mentioning your mother, but
well, my mother and father was divorced
at that
for
time.
Years. Yes, my father was living, and my mother, she died in '97. She was 100 years old, and my father died, I think it was '94.
Did you find that you were closer to your mother than your father?
To my mother, yes.
Did you ever decide to use the GI Bill to get more schooling?
Well, I thought about it one time. I checked up into it, but I never did follow it through. I forgot they told me how much time I had and everything, you know, how many months or years I had I could use it, but I never did follow it through.
When you got home and walked through that door after being gone for the year or so you were gone, do you remember that day?
I remember coming home, yeah. Fort Meade, we got a discharge, and they paid us to where they induct you at, which was Richmond. They give me money to go back to Richmond. I told them I ain't going to Richmond. They just don't care where you go, here's the money. So they took the bus to D.C., and I got on over there, and they dropped me off, and I got a streetcar, and because I knew D.C. well, you know, and went to Roslyn, and I called another bus and got home. And I remember when I got home.
So when you went through that
door. I'd also called my mother from New Jersey and told her I was back in the States. So she knew it was coming sooner or later.
Did they have a celebration when you came home?
Not really. No. I come home and I got a half brother too. I had a half brother, and I met his wife for the first time there. He was in the Air Force, and he met a girl out in Montana, and married her. And I met her, and he had one kid when I got out.
Your brother had already been home.
Yeah, he was already out of the service, wounded in the Air Force.
After he was wounded, did he...
No, this one didn't get wounded. He was in the Air Force.
How about your real brother? After he got wounded, did he go back to the front lines?
No, he went from England to Camp Story, Virginia, down there for some, what do you call it?
Convalescence.
Yeah, he went down there. Stayed down there a while.
Did you make any close friendships while you were in service that you have over the years kept in touch with?
I did that boy from Lynchburg. I went down to Lynchburg to see him, and I went to Long Island, New York to see that boy named Riccoboni, and I seen him. But that's and I wrote to a guy named McGreen, I think. Well, yeah, in Pennsylvania a few times, but I found lost contact with all of them.
You mentioned that you went overseas after the war, a few years after, and visited people.
Uh-huh.
Were these people that you worked with or helped out in service?
I met this family up there in Grundis, Austria, and I got to know her, the daughter, and knew her real well. And I used to write to her after I got home. So I decided to go. When I went back, I went to Salzburg, stayed a while, and met a couple of people in Salzburg that I had seen and knew before. I just accidentally, I was sitting on a park bench, and this little girl come by and spoke to me, and I looked up, and there's this one. I hadn't seen him for 3 years. And I met another one when I come out of the hotel. So I went back there and stayed with them people and run to that girl for a while, and her parents. And then that's when I left and went back to Salzburg, and then I went to Paris, and I came home.
Did you know your wife before you went
No.
off?
It's my second wife. And in my first wife, I didn't know her either.
Did you have any romantic ideas about these girls you were meeting overseas?
Well, just one girl I did, but when I went back over there, and I really wasn't ready to get married. I wanted to see the country and things like that. So that's that. And I just decided I'd come on home, and I didn't get married. But I knew some girls in D.C. They used to write to me. I had 2 or 3 girls in Washington that used to write to me. And I met a girl down in Georgia one Christmas when I was down at Camp Gordon, and her family, and spent Christmas with them down there one year. And then 2 or 3 years after I got out of the service, I used to go down there for Christmas and stay a week or so with them. Her and the mother and the father, real nice people.
Did you join any veterans organizations?
Yeah, I belong to VFW.
And have you been active?
No, I'm not active. I'm a life member, but I'm not active in it.
Were you active? When did you join?
Oh, Lord, I can't remember. It's probably 15, 20 years ago.
So it was well after the war, though?
Yeah, it was well after the war before I finally joined.
Have you ever attended reunions?
No, I never did. They all up in Massachusetts. I wanted to attend one. In fact, I was almost ready to attend one in Massachusetts, and now that's been in 88. I had a daughter got killed in 88, and I didn't get to go. So I've never tried since.
Do you think the Army was good for you?
Yeah, I say it didn't hurt me. I mean, you boomed, you didn't want that, but it really didn't hurt me. Discipline, you thought it was rough, but it wasn't. The only thing the Army told us, everything over 7 days a week and 24 hours a day was theirs, and then over that was yours. But the Army's not like that now. It's an 8 to 5 job. And I got my son, the Air Force, he loves it.
Now, we've talked about a lot of things today, and I very much appreciate your stories. Is there anything else you would like to tell us that we haven't, any other stories that you might have?
Well, I know when I was saying Saarlautern there, they was always shelling us. And it was a town, like townhouses, you call them here. It was all the towns, maybe the whole block. Well, in order to go get back to get supplies, we didn't want to go down the street at night, because they fired at us all the time. What we did, we cut a hole in the wall from house to house. We called it going through the hole in the wall. We cut a big hole in the wall, 3 or 4 foot around, and right through the side of the house, just like right through here, the whole block. And we'd go down through them hole in the wall and down there, and then we'd go get our supplies and come back through there. And at that time, the Germans in Dallas Bulls captured a lot of our equipment. And the Germans were wearing our overcoats and things like that. So we had an order to shoot anything with an overcoat. So when we got ready to ship out, and I think, I'm not mistaken, I believe it was the 36th Division was going to come in and take over our spot, and they need somebody to go back and bring in the sergeant and a couple of guys to get them, show them where to go. So I went back, and the staff sergeant, buck sergeant, got ready to go back, and he had an overcoat on. I said, "Sergeant, do you want to get up to the front lines alive?" He said, "Yeah." I told him, "Oh, you better get rid of that overcoat, because they're going to shoot anything that's got an overcoat." And he throwed it away.
Was it cold at the time?
Yeah, it was wintertime. But we never wore overcoat.
Did you wear a bunch of web gear also when you went in combat?
No, we found some kind of web stuff in the houses. We'd put it over our helmet, but that's all I was worn, kind of camouflage a little bit. But see, we didn't have these camouflage clothes we got now. We just had plain field jackets and OD pants and shirts and things like that.
Did you have type of belts that held ammunition?
Yeah, we had a Carter's belt. One laying there someplace. Here, I got it someplace here. Then we had what's called bandoliers. You take them around the pack, you could wrap around here. Then some hand grenades. Then you had your first aid kit. You're supposed to have gas mask, but didn't have it in it. Canteen, bayonet. One thing I didn't have was a shovel. And I've seen a dead GI over there, and I asked the lieutenant, could I go get his shovel? He told me I could.
Did you only have one pair of shoes the entire time?
Yeah, one pair of shoes. Another thing, too, we had 3, I did, I don't know where everybody did, but I had 3 pair of socks. And they told us, you put on one pair, and you got a good dry pair, and you put it between your helmet and helmet liner. That kept it dry and the rain off of it. And if you take the weapons and put the drivers on your feet, you take the weapons and you hang them under your arm like this, on both sides of the arms, and then take them drivers off on your arm, put them back in the helmet, and that way you rotate them. And your body would drive them pair under your arms. You hang them under there.
Did you ever have any problems with your feet?
No, they gave us pair of galoshes, but it was all right at night, but you get to walking day, your feet got sweating and everything, so we kicked them off, threw them away. because your feet get sweating, and then at nighttime you freeze. You get frostbite.
Did you ever get any type of frostbite?
No, I never got any frostbite. Got pretty cold, but I never got no frostbite.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ferguson, for your interview, and I hope that you can tell your friends about
All right.
this.
Mm-hmm.